Also joined by Thamar E, Gindin, an Iran expert at the Esli Center at Haifa University, as well as the host of the Enriched Uranium podcast. Thamar, thanks for being with us. Let's begin by talking about what this loss means. We are talking about Iran, a country that prides itself in control and predictability, yet here an unpredictable helicopter crash. What are we seeing right now?
First of all, okay, the helicopter crash was unpredictable, but the system predicts everything, and I don't expect any disorder or any as Khamenei E said yesterday, the country will continue running as usual. Mohammad Mokhber, who's the vice president, will get into office for at least top 50 days until there's a new elections. They really have nothing that hinders the regular operations of the country, and we should keep in mind that the president in the Islamic Republic is not like the president in the United States. He's not the head of state. He is the head of the executive branch of the government, which means he executes orders he is given. He's an executive. So he's a very senior executive, but there will be someone else who will step into his shoes very easily because he wasn't a very good president anyway. The interesting thing that I find in social media today, in reactions to his death, of course, most of the opposition and dissidents are very, very happy, cheer for the angel of death. A lot of very good jokes. For example, that this death will cause his presidency to have a whole paragraph instead of just a sentence in the history of Iran. But one very interesting thing I heard was from Mohammed Ismailioun, who lost his wife and daughter in the crash of flight 752 of Ukrainian Airlines 4 years ago that was downed by the IRGC. And he says that they now lost their opportunity to make real justice with him. A lot of people think he should have died. He should have been first tried and in a just court, and he should have paid for his wrongdoings because he has a lot of Iranian blood on his hands.
Let's take a little bit more in-depth look at that. Thamar, stay with us, but as all of these details continue to emerge, I want us to take a closer look at the profile of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi and exactly who he was.
Born in 1960, Ebrahim Raisi went from being a young cleric to the Islamic Republic's leader in 2021 and has been close to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Raisi started his career in the judiciary, moving up quickly. In the 1980s, he was involved in the controversial mass executions of political prisoners, drawing international criticism. By 2019, he became the head of Iran's judiciary, leading anti-corruption efforts that gained him support. In 2021, Raisi ran for president, promising to defend Islamic values and help the poor. His win strengthened the conservative hold on power, although many voters were dissatisfied and the turnout was low. Internationally, Raisi has stood firm against the West and its demands, especially concerning Iran's nuclear program. He has pushed for lifting sanctions and building stronger relationships with countries like Russia and China. At home, Raisi has faced major challenges like a struggling economy and nationwide protests sparked by the death of Mahsa Amini, while she was in custody of the country's morality police for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. His government's tough response to the protests led to the death of hundreds and caused more division among Iranians, as well as increased international criticism.
So now that we have a better look at exactly who Raisi was, Bianca, I'm curious what we're seeing as far as the reaction, the news of his death finally being confirmed this morning.
Well, let's start by what's going on domestically, and then we'll take it to the international arena. The state TV and other local national news media are reporting the death of Ebrahim Raisi as the death of a martyr. person, a president of the people, a friend of the people. And there is sort of a sense of mourning coming from above and being sent down to the people. He was a loyalist to Ayatollah Khamenei, and he surrounded himself with loyalists as well. He was a hardliner. And when we say the word hardliner, it can mean a lot of things. I mean, this man was behind one of the committees that sentenced thousands of Iranians to death in the 80s. He was very hard on cracking down on any dissident, on protests, on any voicing, on any criticism against the Iranian regime. He was very big on aggressive Iranian expansion in the region, and was behind supporting Russia in the war in Ukraine, and he, both foreign policy-wise but also domestically, this man was promoting radicalization essentially, and supporting the extremists in the regime, and whoever will follow him. At the moment, the interim president right now, was his vice president, a loyalist just like him. And so that is what we're hearing from the government. On the streets and on social media, it seems to be very different. I mean, there are accounts after accounts of Iranian people celebrating and making memes, and there are reports of fireworks and people celebrating his death. That said, it's not likely to be something that will explode, sort of take on too much of a momentum in Iran, because, as we heard our experts say here, most likely things will go back to normal. Things will continue. There's a bit of political upheaval right now. They have to fill some holes. There's going to be held an election within the next 50 days. But that said, I mean, the man in charge of everything, Ayatollah Khamenei, is still in power, and he still sets its policy, the policies of Iran. Internationally, we have begun hearing from heads of state, the Indian president, from Iraq, from Hamas. Pakistan is announcing a day of mourning, the UAE as well. All of these reactions, sending their condolences. We have yet to hear from a Western head of state, and that's going to be interesting because, of course, Iran has been seen as such a problematic state in opposition to the West. So that will be interesting. We'll be keeping an eye.
Exactly what the reaction coming out is. Bianca, you mentioned the elections that we should expect tomorrow. I want to come back to you, because what are the possible candidates, I guess you could say, that could fill Raisi's shoes? What should we expect on the coming timeline?
He's not leaving very big shoes to fill, first of all. And we should also remember that when he was elected in 2021, he was actually run. He was run for president. He didn't run himself. There's the Guardian Council that screens the candidates for presidency, and they screened out people who were very capable, who were very much more experienced politician than him, whose loyalty to the government is undoubted. And the only reason that I see, that most people see, for screening them out was that they might have won. There were very strong powers that wanted this man in the presidency because he was one of the leading candidates, one of the leading names as the substitute for Khamenei when Khamenei dies. Because when the supreme leader dies, a new supreme leader is supposed to be elected, and his name was always one of the two names alongside Khamenei's son, Moshtaba, who must be a little bit happy this morning that he doesn't have competition anymore. But he was chosen because he's very obedient to the heads of state. For example, on his first speech after being elected, he said, "Whatever comes of the leader's throat," he used the word throat, "is the people's will." He was very, very obedient, and he did whatever he was told. That's why he's the head of the executive branch. And under his presidency, the rate of death sentences and of executions was more than doubled. Only in last April, there were 77 people executed in the Islamic Republic prisons. In May, until yesterday or the day before yesterday, only Kurds that were executed were 25 people, and that's besides other ethnicities that were obviously also executed. So he had, as I said, a lot of blood on his hands, and most people, except those who wanted to see him punished more severely, are very happy. As for the upcoming elections, the process is that now people have to offer their candidacy for president. Then the Guardian Council screens about 6 to 8 people out of the hundreds that apply. And then there's debate. It's a 50-day process. Mohamed Mokhber is now president for up to 50 days until the next elections. And we don't really know who's the possible heir because there was no talk about it. Usually presidents serve for 2 full terms. They're always elected for a second term. So there's no talk about who will follow. I will, of course, update when I know.
Of course. Tamara, quickly, you're the host of a podcast, Enriched Uranium. When people think of Iran, they think about Iran's nuclear capabilities. Does this in any way impact the decision-making or any of those nuclear program plans?
Not really. I don't think so. He wasn't very high in the decision-making. He was a member of all kinds of committees. You know, I don't want to say he didn't do anything because we did see that he did have a lot of blood on his hands, but I don't think the decision making is going to change because the people who really make the decisions are much higher than him in the hierarchy.
Thamar Gindin, thank you for your analysis on what's happening right now in Iran and the repercussions in the region.